do you play Ultron in double support? Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope your left ear enjoys this video. And I'm going to show you guys, this is kind of like a part 2 to my Ultron guide, which I honestly had no idea that it would get as big as it did. So I'm very grateful for the couple thousand views. That's the most views I've ever gotten in a video. Thank you very much. But yeah, this is meant to be kind of like a part 2. So I'm going to show you guys this gameplay right here because I feel like it shows kind of everything that I want to explain in this game. Now, we had a couple levers here. Thank you, Netties. None of them are banned, by the way. And I ended up getting most heals, most assists, and a couple of them had a couple of multiple counters, right? So we had Spider-Man, we had Hela, this guy went Hela because he couldn't kill me, this guy eventually had to track me down on Thor, etc., etc. So it took a little while for them to finally get me, essentially. So, let's talk about how does Ultron heal? Obviously with his drones, right? But what's the concept of his drone healing, right? The concept of his healing is sustain healing. So this is a concept that exists, pretty broadly in Overwatch, but not so much in this game because of how heavy, how much damage, and how like dependent and how the supports are designed in this game. But Ultron is a support character that heals a little bit over time, but it's the sustained healing, right? So what's so good about I guess how do you make use of sustained healing? Well, number one is the prevention of damage. So how do you prevent damage from happening or prevent somebody from getting low? Well, first off, you want to put your drone on the person who is being the most aggressive on your team. When you're on triple support, you have a little bit more flexibility on who that could be, right? Because your other two supports are healing the tanks for the most part, so you can be a little bit aggressive with your DPS, etc., etc. But when you're on double support, for the most part, your tanks are the ones that are taking on the majority of the aggression. So, because it does more healing on the target that you put it on and a little bit less, AoE, and because most of the time you're even seeing this right now if you pay attention to my drone placement, both of the tanks are right next to each other. So 25 healing plus 20 healing AoE, they're getting at least 45 healing per second, which again does add up quite a bit. Over time, and that's where the idea of sustain comes from. Because if there were a way for me to track exactly how much healing I'm doing to these tanks, although it's not in a burst, it does prevent them from getting low in the first place. Again, because we have that small amount of constant healing just flowing all throughout the game. So it's very important, number one, for you to have drone uptime, and to place your drones on the person who was taking on the most aggression. That can always change. Generally on double support it is tanks, but you see right now I have it on my BP because I know that he's about to go in, and I shielded him. I pressed my damage boost button for him to go in, and plus my Magneto was fine. If my Magneto needed it, I would have just swapped it off and put it on him, but we made more space and I got more value from my healing because specifically I put it on the person who was being the most aggressive on my team. So yeah, that's most important with this character. That's where the majority of your healing is going to come in for the most part. Now, your damage boost, right? So your damage boost is a very interesting button, your shield button. It has multiple uses, but the way that you position it is, again, like I mentioned in my previous guide, the way that you position has everything to do with how you use that button, right? So you want to position yourself in a place that you are taking the least amount of aggro. If you took a look at where I was, like the past couple seconds right here, I was just kind of dancing around this bridge because just in case somebody did see me, I could just kind of duck down and take cover, and my cloak and dagger is right there behind me. She can see me, right? So when I'm back there, I'm just paying attention to my team, seeing what they're doing, seeing what they need, and whenever they need the damage boost, whenever they need the little bit of extra healing, I apply it to that one target, right? But it would have only been possible because I was positioned at that bridge and not taking a lot of aggression, right? If I was out in the open, everybody was shooting at me, they had hit scan or whatever, I would have had to use my shield button defensively instead of offensively. Now right here, I'm just trying to kill this, this last. I have the mechanical skill of a fucking walnut. But yeah, for the most part, that's the idea. That's more or less what you want to do with your triangle. I'm not try your shield button. Sorry, I've been a PlayStation liver my whole life. Now, why would you even want to play Ultron in double support? There are a couple reasons for this. Number one, he's probably one of the best anti-dive supports in the game. A lot of the supports usually have one cooldown or two to kind of, you know, I guess save themselves from the dive. Meanwhile, if you're in the air, a lot of dive characters or brawl characters even just have no way of interacting with you, right? So unless they're playing specific characters, most of the time they're not really going to pay attention to you, and you're going to be able to live for free. Now hold on, I really want to point this out here. Look at this. Look at where I died. I have a Doctor Strange, I have a Cloak and Dagger, and I have a Bucky. I have a tank right in front of me, and my team still decided that it was okay to let me die. Thank you for that. Anyway, I had to point that out. But yeah, when you're anti-dive, and you're not always the most interactable person if they're not playing the right characters. So that results in you having really low deaths most of the time. So that's the goal. If you're playing Ultron and you're dying a ton, either you're getting countered really, really hard, which I'll talk about that in a little bit, or you're just playing the character, you're positioning wrong. So if you find yourself in that situation, collect your thoughts, look for vertical cover, and reset. You know, lock in. But yeah, playing from the sky also gives you a lot of information, and especially as a support, you can see, you know, what's happening around you, you can see what's happening in front of you. Hopefully, for the most part, you can see who has the advantage in the team fight, what your team needs. Maybe you decide to shoot somebody else, right? If you see that this one person over there is really knocking on your tank a lot, you can shoot him a little bit and try and poke them out of their position, etc., etc. But the point is, as a support player, it is very important that you have all the information that you can, which for the most part you will, because, you know, as a support, most of the time you are positioned in the back. But when you're positioned in the back and up in the sky, you're able to help your team out a little bit more. Your ultimate counters Jeff, so that's a good one. If they have a really good Jeff, you know, you won't get swallowed. You'll be able to you know, solo ult the Jeff and hit him, and most of the time you'll kill him. So yeah, it counters him. You can farm your ult very, 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 very fast when you have both drones on the tanks and you're doing damage, because when you have all of that uptime on your drones and they're getting a ton of healing, especially when they overlap a little bit like that, I mean, most of the time you will get a support ult a little bit faster than the other supports will. And if that does happen, you need to rip it as soon as possible, because you might have the opportunity to use it offensively and hopefully get a pick on the other support. Right, so if you get a pick on the other support, then they don't get the opportunity to use a support ult, and most of the time that will mean a pretty easy team fight win. But yeah, the most important thing is your damage. Your damage as Ultron is very, very, very important. It's very bursty. You can two-tap people from a pretty decent range, which not a lot of characters have. So if they're playing a composition, you know, for some reason you really, really, really need that extra damage, Ultron is probably one of the best and safest options, you know, for against most compositions. Now, when should you swap? This is a really good question. Well, first of all, I recommend that you learn how to play into your counters. So learn how to play versus a hit scan, learn how to play against what's it called, a Spider-Man, learn not to get too close to an Iron Man because he will beam you down. Got to be a little bit careful when Storm uses her damage boost, etc., etc. But learn to play around your counters so that you know what to do, pretty much. But I would say when they have multiple of, you know, different counters, it becomes really difficult for you to play the game into position well. Let me give you an example. If they go double hit scan, well, whatever that one hit scan sees, usually the other hit scan can see, unless they're taking like some really like radical angle. But for the most part, you still position, you know, vertically. You still position close to your team. You stay close to a drone. You never go out in the open. They're both hit scan. They're gonna have the same weaknesses. But if they have like a hit scan and an Iron Man, or, you know, who's in your face all the time, it really limits the parts of the map that you can use. And even more so when they're playing like Spider-Man and Phoenix or something, for example. Those are really, really difficult Because again, if you need to be in a certain position, if you need to be up vertically to use some vertical cover, well, all of a sudden you're too far away from your teammate, and the Spider-Man is going to kill you and one-shot you. If you're too low, so the Spider-Man doesn't one-shot you, well, the hit scan's not going to miss, and you're going to be at a much higher risk of taking a lot more damage. So, if you don't have your vertical airspace and you don't have your I guess your lower airspace, I mean it becomes really limiting and difficult for you to play the character, and difficult to get any value, because when most of your time and your effort is spent on just surviving, I mean and not really paying attention to your team and offering value there, I mean it becomes really difficult. Now the other time would be sometimes, let's be honest, Ultron heals are not sometimes it's just not enough. Sometimes, right? Now, there are other times when it'll never be enough. For example, I had a tank player. He was playing the Thing versus a Penny, an Emma, and a Moon Knight. No, he asked me to swap, and I told him I would swap first if I would only swap if he swapped, because no support in the game is gonna do enough healing to outdo all of the damage, because Moon Knight was farming his ult off of him 24/7. He couldn't, our Thing couldn't make any space because the Penny had the mines, and then the Emma was just drilling him over and over again. And then the Moon Knight got two ults before we got one support ult, and then he ended up getting like 5 before we can get our second one. So yeah, in situations like that, there's no point, right? Unless the problem swaps. I'm just not the kind of guy who's going to feed into people's delusions. I know that people feel safe and better, or whatever, just because with having an invis or a cloak or Luna or whatever, anything that can make them invincible and not make them have to think about their positioning. But sometimes you gotta think, it happens. But yeah, there are situations where you do have the right team comp, but they legitimately just have too much damage. And that does happen, especially in this game. So you have to be receptive to it. You have to be open to swapping whenever it's necessary. But most importantly, you got to know your matchups. You got to see, like, for example, if they're playing like Storm Moon Knight and you have 2/2/2, Storm Moon Knight does a ton of damage. It's damage boosted, it's AoE, he can hit a one shot. That's really difficult to out heal, even if you have your drone on your other support all the time. Most of the time your sustained healing and your shield is probably not going to be enough if the Moon Knight hits the one shot while damage boosted. It's very difficult. So yeah, there are situations in which you want to chain, in which you want to swap, but the amount of benefits, it's a case-by-case thing. And again, I can answer your questions in the comments if you guys have any, any specific situations, or you can send me a code so that I can review it. But yeah. Now, lastly, I want to show you guys something, which I think I'm going to make this a separate video. But this is really important, guys, all right? First of all, I want to say this. You Spider-Man players, ooh, I fucking hate your guys' guts. I hate you guys so much. So, there's this game that I played against a Spider-Man. I 1000% should have swapped in this game, 100%. But I got a really good clip here of what I call the Spider-Man parry. So, the Spider-Man parry is a very important thing for you to learn if if they have a Spider-Man and they're really hard targeting you. So I'm just gonna run the clip at full speed, and then I'm gonna break it down. So I'm not even gonna talk or anything, but yeah. So that's happened really fast. Happened really fast. So let me bring it down. Let me slow it down just a little bit. So 0.25. Okay. So I'm listening to the Spider-Man hit me with his web. Now at this point, I pressed my triangle button because I knew that my team needed it here. It wasn't in response to the Spider-Man hitting me with the web, but the first thing you got to do is when you get hit by the spider web, you have to be on the swivel and you have to look at where the Spider-Man is. That's the #1 most important thing. So I find him, he's on my left, and this is what happens. So what you're going to do here is that once the Spider-Man hits a certain point where he's close enough to you, you're supposed to hit your dash so that he can't hit his uppercut. Now, the reason it's important for you to know where the Spider-Man is coming from is because if you dash into him, he's still gonna hit you. So you need to be able to dash away from him. So when he's about to hit me right here, he misses the uppercut because I was able to get away. Now that's still kind of gonna knock you back a little bit, but this after dashing, obviously you're gonna have your speed boost. You're gonna have your extra HP, and for the most part, it should hopefully help you survive that interaction. Now, somebody still needs to kill him, right? It's gonna help you survive, so it's not necessarily gonna solve the problem. If you have the aim of a god and you don't have thumbs or something like that. I don't know what I was trying to say. The point is, if you can kill the Spider-Man, kill him. But yeah, my last, I want to show one more from a different angle over here, in a different situation. So I'm on point right here. Yeah, I'm ulting. I'm doing a bunch of Ultron things. It happens in about 20 seconds here. We're in the neutral. So I'm next to my team. I see the Spider-Man, just absolutely just violate and SA my Luna Snow. Which thank you for that, Netties. I really hope that they nerf that one day. Like, oh my god, that is the most bullshit interaction in the game. But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna stop talking so you can listen to the spider. Okay, he's on my left. I'm looking around. I see that the web came from that way, so although I didn't turn, I know that the only logical place for him to come out of is through here. So my instinct is just to dash in the opposite direction, and I ended up being able to dodge it without taking any damage here. Yep, there we go, and I'm close to my team. They all have drones, so I was able to survive that interaction. So yeah, this is very important for you to learn. If you have a teammate who plays Spider-Man, maybe practice it 1 or 2 times, but or you could just raw dog it and rank like how I did, and eventually get it down. But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will respond to pretty much every single one of them. If you want me to review a code, send me a replay ID. I would love to make a little video on that. Like, that would be great. Some Ultron coaching. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.